Hello. Today we're going to just look at a simple example demonstration of using Visual Studio to create a Windows Azure cloud service which contains a single worker role that is exposed to the external world and communicates over TCP. This is a little bit different than some of the things we've looked at previously, but it's fairly straightforward to set up. We're going to just start in the usual way by creating a new project. And I'm going to just call this project KK Square. And I'm going to add a single worker role to that project, and I'm going to name that worker role Square Service. Could name it anything, but I'll name mine Square Service. Okay, so for the most part, we are going to be able to pretty much use unchanged this boilerplate code. I know that the onStart and role environment changing methods do not change, but the first thing I'm going to do here is define this TCP endpoint. So I can double click on this Square Service role here, and now I get a nice visual editor that allows me to define an endpoint. So I'm going to define an endpoint called Square endpoint, and that's going to be an input endpoint. Two examples are two different types of endpoints that we have are endpoint and internal, but this is endpoint. It's hard to say, but hopefully you get the idea. An input endpoint is exposed to the external world, and we're going to use the TCP protocol and choose some arbitrary port. I'm going to just choose 2345. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. So now that has made an entry into my service definition file. Pretty much know that I can use this. I know I'm going to have to add a using statement for system.net.sockets so that I can implement a TCP listener, and so I can do some basic I/O. I'm going to add a using statement for system.io. And then I am going to just replace this run method with something from my clipboard. And just going through this code here to kind of understand what it does, it pretty much just starts by creating a TCP listener and starting that listener, and then we sit in our loop here that defines the main loop of the worker role, and we accept a TCP client, and once we get a client that connects to us on that port through TCP, we open up a stream reader and writer that allows us to do some basic input and output. And here's another loop that we just sit in here where we continue to prompt for numbers to square until we get the character X, which then disconnects our client. And as long as it's a number that we get that we can convert into a float, we will square it and we will write out the answer back to our client. And it looks like I'm missing a curly brace here. So once I've added that, I should be able to build this thing. Looks like it's built okay, and if I go ahead and start it, and then let's take a look at my development fabric UI just to verify that the service is running on my local fabric here. Here it comes. And looks like we are now ready, and the worker role has started up in my development fabric. So I'm not going to implement a client to talk to that service. I'm just going to use telnet for the sake of simplicity here. So if I can just open up a command prompt and telnet to my local host on that port, we should now, you can now see that we're communicating with that web role through TCP. So I can enter a number to Square, and it squares my numbers until I enter an X, and then when it enters an X, it terminates the connection to the host. So that's pretty much all there is to this example. Not that you would ever particularly want to implement a solution like this in the real world. There's a lot of problems with it. It's certainly not very scalable as it sits, but hopefully this gives you the idea of how you can expose these endpoints in your worker roles and then communicate to them using TCP or HTTP or HTTPS in a way that is a lot more flexible than necessarily having to use IIS in a web role.